In Eve Echoes, I think some people are afraid to start out in PvP. Like they don't really know where to start and how to approach the situations that they run into. Okay, let's see what this, Science-y! But from what I can tell you about being an experienced PvPer in this game, is that there are a few things that you just have to really focus on. Okay, let's warp to the target. Doesn't look like he's moving away, and we are approaching him. Ooh, he's got the flames! Firstly, don't be afraid to put yourself into dangerous situations. This is probably really stupid for me to engage this, but let's give it a shot anyway. Let's see what happens. And once you begin the fight, the important thing is to remain calm. Oh, he's locking back. Oh my god. Remember all of your preparation and try to execute what you planned out beforehand. No, he's got us locked on. It didn't work. But if that doesn't work out, just try not to panic. Okay, let's hit the autopilot. Let's see if we can get out of here. Warp. Autopilot's messed up. Okay, dragon. No, can't warp away because dragon chant. And if it doesn't work out, don't get discouraged. Just go back and figure out what you did wrong. Oh, now there's a bodyguard here. Why did I come back? Take all those things into consideration, and you can be a pro, just like me. I'm stupid. I'm an idiot. Oh my goodness. Hello pilots, and welcome back to another Eve Echoes video. Today I'm going to be building and demonstrating how to use a blink fit Hound 3 for PvP. This is going to be my first attempt at using this style of gameplay, so let's go over the fit and see which mods I've chosen to use to get this to work. So this is a frigate, so not a lot of slots to go over, but the top slots here we have 3 large torpedo launchers. The Hound 3 can use the large version. I have 1 MK9 narrow scanner just for scanning basic stuff, a Republic Fleet warp scrambler to disable them from warping away, and then we have a sensor dampener to keep them from being able to lock on to us. And we'll go over the extra bonuses I have to that later on. In the low slots, I have 2 damage mods just for as much DPS as we can get, and a covert ops cloaking device so that we can sneak up on our targets. Now, if you really want to spend the extra money, you can go with an Explorer narrow scanner over on the mid slots here. That'll decrease your scan radius and be able to find some smaller targets and hide your scan. You can also go with the new Warp Scrambler, whereas this one has a +4. This is just the standard Warp Scrambler. We have the new Shadow Serpentis Warp Scramblers. That's a +5 on the scrambling strength. Unfortunately, they are pretty costly right now. You can see them on the market here for approximately 550 million, very expensive, but that will give you that extra scrambler strength to lock down your targets. So it's up to you if you want to invest the money. In the combat rigs, I just went with 3 bay loading accelerator 3s for as much DPS as possible. And then on the engineering side, I wasn't 100% sure what to choose, so I took 2 targeting systems so that we can get the fast targeting after coming out of our cloak, and a polycarbon engine housing if we need to get away quickly. Heading over to the nanocore, I do have the Dragon Chant nanocore for the Hound. There aren't a lot of bonuses that go along with it, but I do like having that extra DPS and that extra ability to unlock the target that's trying to lock you, especially combined with the sensor dampener. If you can get them to have over 30-second lock-on time, very advantageous to use the Dragon Chant for the Hound 3. You can see I haven't put a whole lot of money into this nanocore yet. Most of the abilities aren't going to be needed, but I do have a chance to develop it later on if I want to. And I did gold core this just so that I could get this extra sensor dampening suppression effect from that second tier of the gold core. One of the key things of this build is going to be making it so that they cannot lock you or take a long time to lock onto you, so that you have enough time to cloak back up before they fully locked you into combat. If we go and check out the implants I'm using, I do have a warhead charge just at level 22, nothing special because I'm not a huge missile pilot yet, but I did choose the GU for sensor dampening output because we are going to be close range, so the negative range doesn't really matter, and it's going to increase that sensor dampening effect even stronger. Make sure if you have the warhead charge implant to activate that explosive warhead passive skill. It really stacks well with the bonuses on the Hound for explosive damage, and that's going to be your primary damage type in this ship. And as I said before, I'm not a huge missile pilot, so you'll notice that my GUs are actually very low. I have a level 6 ballistic control efficiency and a level 3 output on ballistic control, so not huge addition to my DPS, definitely something I can work on for future investments. But that is the standard build I'm going to be using for this ship for this purpose. This is the Blink fit, and we're going to go over how to do a successful blink attack in this next segment. Alright, so I've prepped this anomaly with just one large battleship. Battleships are going to be our primary target using this blink fit, and I'm going to explain to you what I mean by blink. I'll try and break it down and pause it at different points so that you can kind of see specifically how this works and how the timing works. It's very, very important you get the timing right on this, because one small mistake, they've locked onto you and you're probably a sitting duck and dead. You'll notice we don't have any speed mods in the lower slots, and we don't have any warp core optimizers to warp away. So if they lock onto you, you're toast. So ideally we want to get behind the ship that we're going to attack. We want it to be between any rats that they're ratting and us, because we don't want the rats to aggro onto us. There's no rats here, so we're going to go ahead and just open this up here with a 13-kilometer range on our scrambler, and we'll start it with a focus fire and get our scrambler and sensor dampener activated. Now, once that finishes an entire cycle, that's when we're going to start our blink. So freezing it right here, let's slow this down and go over it. Right when the cycle finishes, you'll see the scrambler and the sensor dampener circled here. You're going to want to activate your Covert Ops cloak in the low slots. This is going to make it so that you disappear from sight for the other ship, and they're not going to be able to target you to lock onto you. Now, while we are cloaked, we cannot use our weapons. They will not fire. However, when your warp scrambler and sensor dampener cycle time gets past that halfway point, you can turn your cloak off and be able to relock back onto the target to keep those effects on and start shooting again without being attacked. So drop that cloak, refocus fire onto that target, and you'll notice the scrambler and the sensor dampener cycle automatically come back up. Again, we're going to wait for the entire cycle to come all the way around and finish. Our cloak is off of its cooldown, and once we hit that, we're going to re-cloak back up and disengage the target again. One more time, as soon as it gets past the halfway point in cycle, you uncloak, focus fire your target, and get that going with the scrambler and sensor dampener again before it drops off and they're able to warp away. Again, you'll see that our cloak comes off a cooldown before our scrambler and sensor dampener gets all the way around, and once it hits that top, we cloak back up again. And I'll freeze it one more time here. Right after that halfway point, you're going to be able to turn off that cloak enough time for you to relock onto the target and get your mods back engaged with them so they can't warp away. Now keep it frozen here because there's something very important about this timing. Now, I have targeting rigs on my ship in the engineering slots. This means that when I deactivate the cloak, it's going to take less time for me to re-engage and lock onto that target. So I can wait closer to the top of that cycle in order to relock and uncloak. However, if you do not have targeting rigs in your engineering slot and you're fighting a target that has a smaller signature radius, it's going to take more time to lock on, and you're going to want to be decloaking sooner on that cycle, maybe even a little bit before the halfway point. Before you attempt to do this in PvP, please do what I did with another ship. Clear out the mobs on an encounter, get it to where there's one specific ship size that you want to target, whether it's a battleship, a battle cruiser, or a cruiser, and see how close you can get with that uncloak timing and see how long it takes you to lock back onto that target. If you get the timing wrong, you will die. The other thing that I want to mention that's very important is that I am using a sensor dampener, which means that it's going to take the ship that we're engaging longer to lock back onto me. If you are fighting a smaller ship, like a frigate or a cruiser, they're going to lock onto you a lot faster. So having that sensor dampener effect stronger is going to be super important for fighting those ships, and some of them it just will not work because they're too small and their lock-on time is too quick. Also, you can choose to go with a second scrambler to hold things better. You'll have more points to disable them from warping away. However, without that sensor dampener, you're really going to have to practice and get that timing right. And there's going to be a lot of ships that you just aren't going to be able to perform this on, specifically cruisers and below. When I was learning how to do this, I actually used a video on YouTube from a creator called Muffin, and I'm going to put a link to that video in the description of this one, so you can use that as a reference point as well. It gives you a really good breakdown of how to do the strategy. So if there's anything that I've missed or not covered, please go over and check that video out as well, and you should have a good idea of how to perform this in combat. Okay, let's come out of cloak, relock onto this ship, and finish him off with our explosive damage. There we go. A couple more missiles here. He shouldn't be able to lock back onto us because of that sensor dampener before we're able to finish him off. And you'll notice I'm holding completely still. All right, now that I've successfully practiced this technique, let's go out and get some solo PvP and see if we can get it to work. All right, scanning down a target here. This is 2 noise signals out in low sec. I am back in low sec for the first time in a long time. We're gonna try and get a little bit of a smaller target than I'm used to. This is gonna be a cruiser size ship, which probably means he's getting the scan result and knowing someone is scanning him. So he's gonna be prepared for something to warp in. It's gonna be a little bit trickier to lock him on. The good thing is that I have a covert ops cloak, so I can get into a nice safe position before I engage him, and if he warps away, so be it. You'll notice that I do have 2 warp scramblers in the mid slots here because I am in low sec, so I figured more people were going to be stabbed. I really wish that I had my sensor dampener at this point because this is a smaller ship, and we're going to see what happens when I try to lock onto a smaller ship without the sensor dampener and see if he can not lock us in time for our cloak. Right, so once in range, we turn off our cloak, get both scramblers on him, and start laying in the DPS. Now, I'm not expecting to do a whole lot of DPS to him because, one, he's in shields. It's going to be more of a shield tank ship, and I'm using explosive damage, so it's not going to do very well in his shields, but I am kind of surprised at how much it's doing. So either this cruiser is really squishy, or he is ready for a fight and just trying to bait me into a longer engagement. Now, I make a huge mistake here with my timing, and I wasn't able to cloak up before he's able to fully lock me, so I do have to pop that Dragon Chant ability to break that lock. Thankfully, his reflexes are a little slow to re-lock onto me, and Dragon Chant is able to buy me just enough time to slip away and warp off to safety. Now, I could have re-cloaked here because he doesn't have me targeted, but I think the NPC had me targeted, so I'm going to warp away and try to re-engage him. I'm doing pretty healthy DPS, considering this is explosive damage into shields, and he was almost in armor, so I'm actually really curious to see how much DPS I do once I get him in armor. If I can get off a couple good shots on my reapproach here, this might be a quick kill, even though I don't have that sensor dampener. So let's go back to that completed scan and we'll warp right back to him in that anomaly and see if we can jump on him when there's some more enemies in the fight. Okay, warping in here. Let's see where we're at. Doesn't look like he's warped off yet, so that's good. Maybe he's either not paying attention or he's pretty confident that he can take me out. Now, as this new wave spawns, it would have been the perfect time for me to engage him. Unfortunately, I'm about 60 kilometers off, 60, 70 kilometers off. So we're gonna have to manually pilot our way in here behind him, try to get him in between us and the NPC so that they're only focused on him. If any of those NPC rats target us and lock onto us, we're not going to be able to use our cloak strategy and we're going to be a sitting duck. I do notice that his drones are engaging the enemy, so they are away from his ship, so this would be a perfect time to jump onto him while his drones are about 60 kilometers away from him. It'll give us enough time to apply some DPS, but we are going to have to be worried about that lock on. If he's able to lock onto us for just 1 second, we're going to be in deep, deep trouble. So it looks like he's orbiting the anomaly here. We'll try and cut the path off and get in front of him, but this is kind of a bad situation to be in because as he orbits at that wide range, we're going away from the rats and we're in between him and the rats. So they're going to aggro onto us if we pop out right here. I don't have a whole lot of time though. As you can see, they are shooting him a little bit, so they might be applying some DPS. We can double click on him while cloaked and it shows us he's still at about half shield, so that's not too bad. A couple more hits and he should be into his armor. And as he starts to swing back around here, you can see him approaching us a lot quicker, so we're going to have to time this just right. Most likely he's using a micro warp drive, so our scrambler should be able to disable his speed for the NPCs to do more damage into him as well. We can angle this a little bit more and we should be coming up pretty close. I think we're about 13.75 kilometers on our scrambler range. We'll have to angle out a little bit more as he pulls away. I think if he was just sitting still and hitting him from afar, I could warp off and come back at the right angle. But if I warp off now with no speed mod, we're not going to be able to get on top of him. He's going to be orbiting way too fast. So we're just going to try and cut that angle off and see if we can get into our range. Again, he's pulled off to about 30 kilometers. So let's go and manually pilot here. Halfway, cut him about halfway on there. See if we can take a little shortcut. Yeah, that seems to be helping a little bit. You can see him getting closer here, 25, 24 kilometers. Unfortunately, we are losing some DPS from the rats with this, and the element of surprise has gone way down. But let's pop out. He's about half shields now. Let's go ahead and engage scramblers, full DPS mods. See if we can get a couple of good shots here and re-engage our cloak before he's able to target us. We want to do it right at the top of our scrambler. Spoiler alert, I didn't hit the cloak button when I should have, and I didn't cloak up. So as you can see, we went way past the top of the scrambler cycle. I didn't hit my cloak, and he's already going to start locking onto us. And with that fast lock on time, we're kind of screwed at this point. This is why I try to stress how important it is to keep that timing and watching those scrambler cycles and your cloak timer more than watching the ship in space. Because even a 3-second hesitation will result in what's about to happen here. Okay, waiting for the cycle to come around again. Doesn't look like he's locking on to us yet. Okay, now he's locking on. Let's cloak up. Okay, but now our scrambler is going to fall off, so it kind of messed that up. Let's come out of cloak, relock onto him here, get both scramblers, and start firing again. Still in his shields, so maybe he's repping at this point. He's locking onto us again. We're going to have to cloak back up. Waiting for this cloak to come off. Cloaked up, not too bad, not too bad. Going good. Okay, let's come out, get both scramblers on him again. We're kind of messing up on the timing here because this is such a tight window with fighting a smaller ship. We are almost into, oh no, now something's got us locked. I'm clicking the cloak button, it's not working, and I don't even have time to warp away. Oh! All right, refit here from our destruction, and we are scanning down a Chimera. So while we may not be able to burst through its tank, this is going to be a great opportunity for us to test out our blink strategy and see how it engages a larger target. Remember, the larger the target is, the longer the time it is for them to lock onto you, so the more successful you can be at blinking. And this is a carrier, so let's go ahead and start the music. And now for this next clip, I want to present to you the most outrageous, the most epic 1v1 in the history of the Gromire Games YouTube channel. Here it is, recorded and narrated for your viewing pleasure. Are you ready? Well, too bad, because this guy is completely AFK. Now, I was really hoping for like the most epic fight I had ever had in Eve Echoes at this point. I specifically built to try and take out the carrier like this. It's just really unfortunate and a big letdown that this is the way that it's going to be my very first carrier kill in Eve Echoes. Now, not that I'm complaining, you know, a lot of people haven't killed a carrier before at all, and let alone solo, so I guess that's something to be said, but man, this is not at all the way that I thought it was going to go. It takes me about 13 minutes total to take this carrier out. Absolutely no help, no activity from him whatsoever. Most likely he had his network sensor mode activated, and so when he closed his game, his ship didn't automatically warp off because I think he had 105 total stab points or warp disruption on him when I finished killing him, and unfortunately for him, he's going to wake up in a pod with no carrier, but that's just the way it goes, and it's not like I'm just going to walk away from this free kill. But if I'm being 100% honest with you, this was the least exciting engagement of PvP I think I've ever had. To just constantly just sit here and beat on a massive ship like this was kind of depressing. I'm going to be 100% honest with everybody in this video that's watching. It was not fun. I'm sorry. And the irony is not lost on me, the fact that this is my largest solo kill in the history of my channel. And the fact that my overall goal was to kill a carrier 1v1, you know, by myself, and this is the way it happened, is kind of a huge letdown for me. But we will go ahead and loot up this wreck, and we will take the money, and we will look for a better fight, and hopefully a more engaging story for me to show you guys. So let's see what he dropped in his wreck. It's probably going to be some pretty heavy stuff. I am in a smaller ship, not meant for hauling, so this is going to take me quite a while. Yeah, we can see 9 fighters there. They're faction fighters, so that's some good money. Fortunately, I can only carry 1 at a time, so we'll pick up everything else here. Yeah, 1 fighter, that's fine. We do have some extra room here in our inventory, and we will bookmark the wreck so we can come back and forth and loot it. Let's see how close the nearest NPC station is. I think I can fit a little bit more in my inventory. Yeah, let's try and get all this lighter stuff just so we don't have to come back for that. That one, some debris, that's always pretty light. Definitely not the battery. The capital mod's not gonna fit. We got a shield mod. Okay, now we got as much as we can probably fit for one trip. Let's see where the closest NPC station is gonna be by marking stations. This means that these are the ones that we can dock at. And it looks like Serpentis Prime is only 3 jumps away, so that's not too bad. So fun fact for this, it actually took me about 40 minutes to loot the entire wreck, and it only took me 13 minutes to kill the ship. So a lot longer to pick up the loot, but it was definitely worth it over time. Let's check out the kill mail and see what we got.
I'm sorry.
Yep, 40 billion ISK Chimera, just a basic fit, definitely glass cannon. He did have a shield, but wasn't repping at all because he was AFK. So again, something really disappointing. I wanted to see if I could eventually out DPS him, if his shield would have drained him of capacitor and I could have outmatched him over time. Even though the battle would have taken longer, I really wanted more of a fight there. All right, so let's loot everything up back and forth, and I will cut to the point and we'll see how much we got from this kill. Right, docking up for our final time here in Serpentis Prime. No resistance whatsoever. This is a really late night for any US players, so it was completely empty and I was able to just go back and forth about 9 times to gather all the loot. So let's put it into our inventory here and see what we ended up with. Yep, take out that faction fighter, put it in the inventory, and yep, 1.79 billion ISK from that kill. So whereas I didn't like the fight, it was definitely worth the time to pick up the loot for our future engagements. Okay, let's get back out there and see what else we can find. Moving out through nullsec here, and we've got 1 noise signal, but we've got 3 Covetor 2s. Now, if these ships were coordinated, I'm just a Hound 3. They could probably large nuke me out and take me out with their 6 drones, but I don't think any of them are awake or paying attention, and this is likely a multi-boxer. We'll do what we can with only 1 scrambler and see if we can burst something down before it wakes up. But with only 4 points of stab, I'm probably not going to be able to hold on to anything. Let's activate all of our DPS that we possibly can and see if we can burst something down before they get a warning message. Definitely nobody coming to help, so as long as we can get him into negative territory here, we should be able to take him out. I wish I had my Fiend right here, because as you'll see, all 3 are going to jump away and 4 points of stab was not enough. Of course, you know, when you don't have the bubble, that's when you need it the most. Oh well. Let's head back out and see if we can find a better fight. But I am back in Lowsec and I have successfully scanned down a Macarial.
Get your special sock out, nerds. It's gonna get good.
Now this is actually a perfect target for us because it's not going to have a huge amount of resist like the Navy issue battleships, but it's going to be a large enough target for our explosive damage to really apply that full DPS, especially if we can get it into armor. Now we only have 1 scrambler, so we have to hope that 4 points is going to be enough to hold this thing, but with that sensor dampener, it's going to give us plenty of time to use our blink strategy. Landing on the target here, he hasn't warped away yet, so that's a great sign. Let's go ahead and approach and get nice and close. We want to be within 13 kilometers for our scrambler to be able to hold him, and we want to be basically on an approach to him so that we just sit still at that location. If he tries to move towards us, we're going to be able to move pretty quickly while we're cloaked anyway. I think about 700 ms. So if he's disrupted, if he has a micro warp drive, we're going to be able to disrupt that, and he's not going to be able to catch us even though we aren't using a speed module. And the thing that I need to remember to do is focus specifically on that warp scrambler cycle and activating my cloak on time. Everything else, once I hit approach to this target, everything else is secondary. I don't need to know what distance it is from me. I don't need to know where the rats are or anything. Once we hit approach, let's just focus on that warp scrambler cycle. Okay, now that we've decloaked here, we're going to wait till that gets all the way to the top. Go ahead and activate our cloak so that's going to break any lock. Not sure if he was locking onto us yet or not, but that's okay. Let's deactivate the cloak now that we've gotten halfway through the cycle, and we'll get a nice full focus fire cycle of scrambler and sensor dampener on this target. You can see we've already passed about halfway through his shield, so this is a much softer battleship than most of the ones I've fought. And second cycle there, let's activate that cloak. We'll wait till it gets about to the halfway point, deactivate again, and get another full focus fire cycle off on this Macario. This is the first time that I'm actually using a majority of skill-based and timing-based tactics to take out a ship. Most of the other ships that you've seen me use have been like, for example, my Fiend, where I just hit orbit and wait until they die. This one takes a lot more timing and ability to manage your modules, so it's much more difficult to pull off, and that's what makes it so much more fun and rewarding when you actually get it to work. Again, just watching that cycle tick, activating our cloak on time, and just making sure that nothing interrupts our timing. Just focus on those modules. Now this can be a little bit of a drain, but don't get discouraged, just keep up the focus and you will wear them down over time, especially if they're not fit super defensively. If we can get this guy into armor, you're going to see our DPS shoot up dramatically. So once we get through those shields, our explosive damage is going to apply to his armor much better. And for example, for this ship, Macarios are usually going to be shield tank ships. So we can get into his armor, he's going to have almost no resistance, and it's going to put a huge hole in his hull. Not sure if he's trying to lock us back on or not. Not sure if he's trying to move towards us or not. I'm really not even focused on the overview at this point. I'm just looking at those modules and making sure I keep my rotation and my timing down. You mess that up one time and they make lock with you and you can't cloak, you're a sitting duck. And the great thing about this strategy is that it's going to work against any battleship. Because they're a larger ship and they take such a long time to lock onto you, they're not going to be able to lock onto you, especially with that sensor dampener on, before you're able to cloak back up. So even if they have drones, even if they're a Balgorn with webs and newts and nos, it's not going to matter if they can't lock onto you, because they can't hit what they can't see. All right, this next focus fire, we should be getting into his armor here so we can see a lot more DPS on our shots. 7,000 for that hit. That was a little bit of shield here. Let's see what the next shot gets off on the damage wise. It should be about double. Okay, 1900. Yeah, still picking at his shields. Okay, we'll go through another cycle here. Really trying to wear down that shield now. Not sure if he's repping, but if he is, it's not going to be enough. Okay, not bad. Nice hit. Nice solid hit here. Focusing on the cycle, focusing on our blink. Really got to keep that time. There's the 15,000 hit there. Huge hit into his armor. We'll do our normal cycle here and cloak up. Okay, wait till about halfway. Decloak, lock back on. Get off a nice shot. Straight into his armor. 14,000. Now we're in hull. Taking him down here. He's not warping away. So it looks like 4 points of stab was enough to hold him. Now that we're halfway through our hull, I'm just going to go ahead and activate all my DPS mods. You see me turn on that dragon chant there to break any locks. Even the NPCs are going to be broken with that dragon chant ability, and we should be able to take him out with one more hit to finish it off. Very nice. Very, very, very fun compared to the other engagement I had with the AFK carrier. And another great thing about this is it doesn't matter if you're in low sec or null sec. You don't need a bubble to activate this. All you need is enough points to hold them in place. So you could be a really small target, fit really cheaply, like my Hound is fit. It only cost me about 150 insurance points to replace if I do mess up. And you can kill things like this battleship, like this faction Macario. Okay, so we'll give him a good fight in local. I've been typing out good fight now because some people have different meanings for GF. But for me, it's always meant good fight. So we'll just give him a good fight in case he sees us. And we'll check out that kill mail, get to a safe spot in low sec so we don't blow up on a station. Done that way too many times. Not too bad. 3.3 billion for this Macario kill. He was fit a little bit more defensively than I thought he was, especially because I didn't notice any shield reps. And I do notice a gold nanocore in there. So to be fair, he could have been AI ratting and this was all for nothing. But I feel like it worked out well. I feel like I executed it well. And I'm pretty happy with the results compared to the other AFK fight that I had. Alright, that'll wrap it up for my Hound 3 video. Hopefully you enjoyed the engagements that I showcased, even if a couple of them were a little bit less than exciting. I think the great thing about this ship, if you do want to try it out or something similar to it with the Blink strategy, is that it's very low cost IP, very low cost ISK wise if you lose it, and easy to replace. So it's not like you're fighting with battleships or with capital ships. You can try out something, fail, and that's okay. Give it another shot. Hey, you might be out there and you might get lucky, or when you finally get it to execute, you really feel like you accomplished something for once. It's not just a set in orbit and forget. You really have to pay attention to play this correctly. If you enjoyed the video, if you like this kind of content, go ahead and drop me a like. And you know what? Don't be afraid to subscribe if you haven't already. You might like something else that I'm coming up with pretty soon. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to drop a comment down below into the comment section or message me on Discord at Gromeyer. Until then, I will see you in the next Eve Echoes video.
You're still here. It's over. Go home. Oh, you're expecting a teaser. Well, we don't have that kind of money. You expecting Sam Jackson show up with an eye patch and a saucy little leather number? Go.